I found myself just completely overtaken with anxiety, probably mild depression, but it still hurt and sucked, felt terrible. I just couldn't get it together. Like, my happiness was at an all-time life low, and I have more money than I've ever had.
What is Andrew's core purpose?
The most invigorating and rewarding experiences in my life has been adventuring in the outdoors with people, and preserving that experience for decades, hundreds of years, thousands of years to come, I think is a really inspirational thing to work towards as a career choice.
Man, there's just so much you learn over the years. Hindsight's 20/20, so it's always tough to, I think I always go back on do what you feel is right, but you'll be criticized anyways. That's what I always say. And
I like that.
I found that to be true, like just follow your gut on that. And that's down to hiring. There's always, you can feel in your guts, somebody seems really good, but there's just something telling you there's just something not right. You hire them, you're always right on that, So just follow your gut. If you think a process needs to be a certain way, go with it. You can always change, you can always adjust, but don't get caught in the weeds. Just move fast, adjust on the fly, and trust your gut, I think.
Yes. That everybody is just looking forward to getting out, and which will become self-sustaining over a period of time too, because then that means the jobs are coming back and the places are back to capacity. And so I think the bigger part to guard against is that places are going to be overwhelmed with people wanting to go out, and that we're all going to have a level of patience on the other side of this, which is, and you brought this up earlier beautifully, we're all going to have to remember that these businesses are going to have to figure it all out again. They haven't been practicing, so they don't know what this looks like.
A common mistake is, and it happens all of the time, right? People not being prepared, that didn't do their research, right? Starting with the job description itself. So there's two or three things, right? Number one, read the job description and then translate what the job or the company is asking for into what you've done. You got to make that match, and I could talk about that in just one second. Number two, you've got to do some research on the company, because one of the questions you're going to get is, why do you want to work here? Right?
In terms of what I did, to cover it briefly, I knew I was a first-time founder and CEO, starting a pun-based betting company after my last company had just laid me off at 1 p.m. on a Monday. So I think the first person I ever told Cheats and Giggles about, outside of maybe a couple very close friends and family, was a guy named Paul Foley, who's a guy in Denver that a lot of people know.
He's been on the Riderflex podcast. Yep.
And you'll recognize the name. And so I'm having ramen with Paul, and I think it's probably early 2018 or late 2017. And I'm telling him, I'm like, yeah, I got a logo made, I got a website. I'm telling him. And I said, I told him about the betting company, and I said, and it's called Cheats and Giggles. And I think Paul took a bite of his ramen, and then he just kind of looked up at me, and he was like, "The fuck are you talking about?" That was his exact response.
I actually think financial projections I'm different than some VCs. I actually think financial projections are extremely telling, not because they're accurate, but it's how the founder thinks about the company. So one of the first things I ask a founder to send me is their financial projections. It's very telling to me if they don't have it. And I'm kind of like, so I'm going to give you money and hope you do well with it. That would be like getting in a boat and they don't have a map. And you're kind of like, so we think we're going to cross the ocean, but we have no idea where we're going or how we're going to get there.
It's going to be really fun though. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. We know it's there. We know it'll be fine. Just jump on.
So I would say making sure that you are open to being mentored, which means being willing to be vulnerable and maybe take a job that is a little bit out of your comfort zone, but allows you the opportunity to really shine. I also think it's especially important if you want to go on and be a general manager, an executive, or a CEO, to take jobs along the way that really have responsibilities that can be measured, especially P&L kind of responsibilities, so you can show your stuff and show the impact that you're making.
Yeah.
Failure's okay. And in fact, to me, that's kind of part of the American spirit.
Yeah.
It is okay to fail. In many cases, you've heard the term fail fast. And what that means is you want to confirm yes or no very quickly, as quickly as possible, if your idea has merit. And you don't want to, if it doesn't, you want to keep beating your head against a wall. But it's also recognizing that failure is okay. And again, that's something that I think is unique about American societies. You go over to Asia and failure is not okay, but here it is. And failure, in my mind, leads to success. Pick yourself back up, try it again, try a different idea, try a different approach.
Find out what you're really interested in. What gets you excited? Because I think if you pick the right things that you're interested in, you will end up being good at them. If you keep doing what you think you should do versus what you want to do, I think you never end up where you really want to be. And I think I've, taken on the strategy of I do what feels good for my strengths and my interests. And when I've done that, it's led me to doors opening that I never thought were even there.
He would go to a clinic to do his recovery for opioid use. So he'd go to the clinic to get his medication and get his counseling and, go about his day. But the challenge is he lives in a small town and everybody knows who he is and they recognize his car, and he's deathly afraid that somebody would recognize who he was. So he would drive home, get his wife's car, drive his wife's car to the clinic, pull around to the back, park behind the clinic, and go up through the basement into the clinic.
And I'm watching it, and here a couple walked past me, and the wife had two in her hand, and the husband had two in his hand, and the wife looked at the husband and said, "It really stinks that you can only buy two of these." And it hit me that he was moving the cards around so that they picked the card he wanted, right? Because I had that much exposure to magic and things like that. So I walked up to Billy and I said, "Hey, Billy, I'd love to know what you know, but eventually do it better," right? Because I was young and I figured that was the best thing to say. And he said, "All right, smart ass kid." He said, "Come sit next to me when I do my next pitch. You're going to see one by one how I pick off each person in the audience. I'm going to start with the wives. I'm going to hit the husbands. The kids are going to want to do all the, play with the mop." He said, "You'll see it. And then I'm going to hit them with an offer they can't refuse."
The advice I always give is that if you don't have a reason, if your why, to quote Simon Sinek, right? If your internal why to start that company is not baked into your bones, like you don't see it as a job, you see it as something that you have so intrinsically part of your DNA, it's either going to be a really, really, really tough road to climb, or you're not going to make it. I had somebody tell me once, if you want to know what you're passionate about, like that, it gets thrown around all the time. What are you just Googling? What are you see in your search history? What are you, when you're bored and just playing on your phone, what are you naturally drawn to in your feeds or your news apps and channels?
And the whole thing is expect that it's not going to be easy. Create a plan. The plan will change, and just obsess that mission. I always say it in a sense like this. It's like taking a trip. Like if I want to go to Florida, you expect this, sandy beaches, nice weather, and you have to start by getting there. Okay. You don't know if you're going to hit a detour. You probably are going to hit a detour. You get a map and you go, all right, I'm going to get there in this much time. Sometimes you get there faster. Sometimes you get there 3 times the length, but just get there.
Just get there.
And when you get there, just understand that don't be satisfied that it's going to be perfect.
Right.
Because when you get there, you're going to be on to your next goal. The sand's going to be hot, and you're going to have to put the towel down and take a break from your feet. It's going to rain 2 out of the 3 days that you're there. It's okay. Right. Have a target. The key is the journey, and expect those detours and look forward to them.
I was on a soccer field watching my daughter play soccer, and there was a mom there. We're chatting, and she goes, "I see you always running and traveling, and what do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'll be traveling a lot more because now I'm raising capital." So she says, "Well, how much are you raising?" And I said, "It's probably $2 million." And she goes, "Oh, I may be able to invest. Why don't we book an appointment? I come in and chat about your business." And I was like, "What?"
Okay.
And she did. She